I spent the first 6 months of my life in an orphanage. And Romanian, Russian, Eastern European orphanages, like if you Google that, the first things that come up are like UN investigations, right? Like babies are treated like worse than animals. I mean, it really, really is a business of selling bodies over there. I wasn't interacted with for 6 months. I feel bad for myself in a sense, but I would look at my infant and I'd be like, oh my God, the idea of somebody leaving you to rot in a crib by yourself, like I couldn't even bear it. And it affected my postpartum depression. It brought up everything for me, right? Having my own child brought everything up. There's no way I was going to look at her and not think, oh my God, what if you were in a orphanage right now? Like the idea of this sweet little precious helpless baby girl who came out of my body, who I grew inside of me, like being alone. So I had to write Rubina. I had to write Rubina. There was like no way around it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 122. In this episode, I speak with Stasia Gambino. Stasia is a screenwriter in Los Angeles, and it was a phenomenal conversation tonight. I can't wait for you to check it out. To watch this podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. To listen to this podcast, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Here's my conversation with Stasia. Stasia Gambino, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Howdy, neighbor.
Yeah, right. I live right in front of you.
I know. You know, it's funny. It's like, I thought you guys knew, and shout out to Mike there. Mike's in the house.
My husband.
Hello.
Eric's in the house.
Yo.
But
What's up?
yeah, I thought you guys knew about it. Be like, wait a minute, you do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, no, I do a podcast. So yeah, Monday or Tuesday nights when you see Eric pull in here, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So how's everything been?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Writing hard, doing mom stuff, trying to get that over, together. It's funny because when I try to write Sophia, my little baby, she's a year and a half, she wants to be wherever I am. So she is constantly under my desk. And she doesn't seem to understand that if she stands up, she'll hit her head on the desk. So it's constant, like, mommy's trying to type, hits her head. It's okay, baby. I put her somewhere else. She crawls right back under the desk. But that's what being a mom is. So I do a lot of my writing primarily at night before she gets up at like 4:50 a.m.
What has that experience been like as a mother?
It's one day at a time. I don't want to say it's difficult. It's tiring, but it's difficult in a way that you wouldn't think. So yes, being exhausted all the time is not fun, but it's difficult in the sense of the thoughts that I have when I'm alone. Like it's difficult because it's like, this is this little helpless baby that I love more than I've ever loved anyone or anything ever. And then I think about all the things that could possibly happen to her. What is she going to be like when she's an adult? What if she makes friends with this person and they hurt her or harm her? What if I'm not being attentive enough? So it's difficult with the self-talk for me personally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's one of those things that you're not going to know until you're in that situation. That's what everyone tells me. They're like, you can't explain it. Like, it's like you just have to get there. And then you're like, oh.
And then you just do it a day at a time. And it's like, you just do what you got to do. Like, you don't really have a choice, but it's not even like you're thinking about it as a choice. You just do it. Oh, baby needs this. We got to do that. I'm just going to do it. There's no other option. And it is expensive, but it's expensive spread out. So it's not like as expensive as I thought it would be. Because you have to buy things like spread out. And also people are really cool at baby showers and they get you a lot of stuff. So baby showers are good. Always have a baby shower when you cross that bridge.
Yeah, no, I've been to my share of them. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, the the weddings, the baby showers, they definitely rack up, I think.
they're expensive too.
Oh yeah.
I like having them. I don't like going to them. It's expensive.
And you go to like the registry of wherever it's at, and of course, like all the least expensive things are usually already
Yeah,
taken.
right.
So like you have like the $300-$400 whatever thing that's, oh, you can get us this. Like, oh, I'll get the gift card probably.
Yeah, just a gift. Yeah, just give him some money. Yeah.
Now, were you maybe I thought a good way to launch off too is just a little bit of your backstory and everything too. Have you always been a writer, or is that something that as of late you've been into?
Yeah. So I've always been a writer for as long as I can remember. Um my mom who is a teacher, my mom who adopted me, we'll get into that in a second. But my mom figured out when I was in first grade that I was a really good writer. And she wanted to like have some of my little books that I would make published. We never went through with that, but I remember her telling me like we should get these published. So, but I wrote a lot in high school and a lot in college, and then I got into screenplays um after I had my baby. So, over, a little over a year and a half ago. Yeah, but it was mostly music and poetry and I really enjoyed writing papers in college. I always loved that. I was a intern at a newspaper for a while, so I wrote some articles here and there. I've just always loved writing.
So you've only been writing screenplays for a year and a half.
Yeah,
That's incredible because the screenplay that I know of
yeah.
and have read is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it was my
You're a really
first.
fantastic writer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was my first. Yeah, it was my
Okay.
first.
So I think that's a perfect
Yeah,
opening there.
right.
Can you tell us about that experience and what that screenplay is about?
Okay, so backstory, I was adopted from Russia when I was 6 months old. I am Romani. That is what gypsies are. It's the ethnic group of gypsies. Apparently, saying gypsy is a slur, but I'm a gypsy, so I can say it. I don't mean it as a slur, but that's what my mom told me that I was because that's what it said on my adoption paperwork. It literally said ethnicity gypsy. And I didn't even know what the word Romani was until I went to an all women's college in Boston and I took political science classes and stuff. I had no idea what Romani was. But I am of Romani ethnicity. And my birth mom, Rubina, was 15 when she had me. And I didn't really have that much information about her. But when I was 16, my mom took me to go get my driver's license on my 16th birthday in New York, where I grew up. And we had to go to the safety deposit box at the bank. Um, and she had to pick up I guess my birth certificate was in there. And so my mom had a call, so she left the room and I'm like rifling through this box of treasures, right? Like everything important my mom has, and there's my adoption paperwork and I'd never seen it. So I remember it's so funny. I took out my BlackBerry at the time and I took pictures of everything cuz my mom was like, "Do not look at that." Which as a mom now, I get that. I do, but at the time I was like, "Why? This is about me." But I think my parents didn't want me to they didn't want to disrupt my life and that information would be disruptive. And it was. It was. Ultimately in a good way, but it still was disruptive because it changed everything I knew about myself. So I took all these pictures and I had a translated version and then the Russian version. And I didn't know much other than my mom's name was Rubina Zernosenko, and my dad's name is Alexander Seleznev. And he was 21 and she was 15, and that was about it. And I knew their heights and their weights and just that I was a gypsy. There was no explanation of why I was put up for adoption. There was no, like anything other than just like her info and a signature. That's it. So, and he didn't sign anything. So I'm assuming she was alone when she did that. Um, at the time on the internet, I couldn't find anything about her. And like, this was what? I was 16, so like 2010, 2011. No, 2012. Sorry, math. And we I couldn't find anything on the internet about her. So I had to wait a few years. Then I finally went to college and I'm like, I dropped my MacBook into something. I can't remember but it got wet. So it's like it's sitting in a thing of rice and I'm like praying to God that it works because I've got school the next day. And I'm trying to back things up, and then finally I get it on and all these old files pop up and I found the picture from my BlackBerry from 2012 and it was all my paperwork. And there was a girl on my floor at college. I went to Simmons University before I dropped out after one semester. And then I moved to California. But I was there and there was this girl in my dorm and she was from Russia. Like she was Russian. Like she like got straight off the plane and went to college. And she had this beautiful accent and she was so funny. And we had this inside joke where we would say to each other, like, in Soviet Russia, dog walk you. And I remember everybody else thought that I was like bullying her, but I definitely wasn't. We were like homies. So she and I got on the internet and she showed me Russian social media and we still couldn't find Rubina. This was in 2015. But after looking and looking and looking for years relentlessly with her help, we eventually found both of my parents. So I found my mom in 2018 and then I found my dad in 2020. Rubina is the story of what I've pulled together about her pregnancy and what happened to her and what happened to me and how I was put in an orphanage. And like, it's about, I mean, it is about a 15-year-old girl as a woman of color as she navigates, newly post-Soviet Russia, with a partner who is much older than her, preys on her, uses her, and what happens to their baby. And it's not really about me. It's 100% about Rubina. So yeah.
Wow. Well,
That was very long-winded.
No, that's great. Because that gives us a lot to work with. And so I'm going to backpedal a little bit. So just, so you said you were 15 or 16 when you first found out that so you had no idea.
I knew I was adopted.
Okay. So you did know that, but
Yeah.
you did not know from where, for who.
Yeah. I didn't know her name. I just knew I was adopted from Russia and I was a gypsy. That was about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember when I read your script, not only was it phenomenal to read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so great. But the reality of like, oh wait, there's things in this script that are actually happening in Russia.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other, and we're going to dive into that. So, I mean, there's so many. So the thing when I read it was this is a story that needs out there, that needs to be told, because I had never heard anything like that before. And I don't think a lot of the mainstream talks about it.
No. It's definitely not talked about. I mean, like I said, I didn't even know what Romani was, but in Europe, though, they know what gypsies are. They'll tell you I went to France with my mom and they'll immediately like hotel staff are like, stay away from gypsies. And, lo and behold, we're like at the Louvre and there are a bunch of gypsies with, what's it called? They're holding like pieces of paper that look like petitions and they're trying to get your information. So they were, I'm assuming, doing scams or whatever. But that is because of, and I really do mean thousands of years, right? Because we're talking about Europe, the thousands of years of just like constant displacement, completely ostracized from society, totally treated like absolute garbage. And so what happens when you have like years and years and years of a totally like marginalized group of people, right? Like they're going to be doing weird things for money. They have to. They have no choice. But yeah, I didn't know much about that until I went to college and I learned a lot about about Romani people.
And where was Simmons at? Is that in New
It's in
York?
Boston.
In Boston?
Yeah, it's right on the Fenway.
What made you come to California?
So my mom, my adoptive mom, I'm just going to refer to her as my mom. I call both of these ladies my mom. I know
Right.
it's kind of confusing. I actually have 3 moms, but like including my stepmom, she just passed, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay. But yeah, no, my mom, Mary Ellen, my American mom, my beautiful, you met her. She's really
Yeah.
funny. Um she grew up in Downey down here. Um, and so when her parents passed away, I moved into the house and I was like 19 years old, freshly dropped out of college and living alone in a 3-bedroom all by myself in Downey. And I lived alone for a few years. Yeah.
It was just you.
Yeah. And then my brother came out, and then eventually my mom sold her house in New York and moved out here. So now everybody's here and we see each other. Right. I go to my mom's house every Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. And I met her at the table reading that you had, and thank you for thinking of me for reading a part.
Of course. You were
Yeah.
great. You played a wonderful Alexander.
Yeah, well, that was a great. Yeah, I hadn't done something like that in a little while, so that was a treat. And yeah, I think you got a great group of people together to do that as well.
Thanks. You're a great actor.
Thank you.
I could tell. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You were reading it really well. It was so natural. And I was like, oh, thank God he's doing a good job.
You gave me a big part too. Like it was one of those things like, okay, I haven't done a table read in a while. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what section I'm in. And then I go, I'm in the whole entire thing.
You're like almost in every page. Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes you're like, all right, I just got to be ready for this page 7, 15, and 24. Like, nope, I really got to be on this. But it was a great experience. So what was that like for you to see something that's been in your head, something you've experienced, and then you write it, and then to see other people?
Well, that's the cool thing about art, man, and anything. Like, I would always say this about making music too. Like, I just pulled something out of thin air. Like, that's always been wild to me. And, anytime I feel bad about myself, I just kind of remember like I created something, a big something out of absolutely nothing, right? Because you're working with a blank slate. Writing Rubina was extremely important to me because of what happened. So you asked me this a little while ago and I kind of like went off a little bit. But what happens to Romani women is like a lot of the times Russia is not great. We kind of all know that. Like nobody who's there like actually wants to be there unless you're like doing really well over there. Like you do, like you can make money over there. You can be wealthy. Like my friend Maria, who I went to school with, and she helped me find Rubina. Like her parents are doctors or something like that. So you can do well over there, but for the most part, most people are, living in it's still an economic limbo, right? I mean, geographically, they have everything that they need to be a first world country, but Russia is so spread out. There's so many different groups of people. There's so many dialects, and geographically, it's so hard to unite those people that Russia is almost impossible to unite. So it's actually one of those places that technically like would need communism and like a dictatorship because it's so spread out. But of course, what happens with that, right? Then you get everything that happened with communism, and we don't want to revisit any of that. But Russia is economically a second world country, and the way people live, the majority of people live, I would venture to say it's comparable to a third world country. Just from what I've seen and heard from people that I know over there, like Rubina and her family, and her friends. Rubina is in prison right now, and she went to prison for something that you and I would get a slap on the wrist for in the US. Think of like having a little like baggie of weed on you, right? Like something that's not even criminalized over here. But she got 10 years. And a lot of that happens because she is gypsy, right? Like they're so racist over there they just put poor people and gypsies in prison left and right. And, not only did she and many other Romani women, like, have their babies put up for adoption without their consent, right? And like sold to orphanages, but also Rubina told me, because I did find her, and it's very hard to send like letters because she is in prison. I have to like type something out, translate it, email it to her friend. Her friend has to print it out, mail it. It's a whole thing. And they constantly move her from prison to prison. So she's not accessible. Even her own family doesn't know where she is. They don't tell you. It's not like information that people readily have, even the family members. So I've only communicated with Rubina like 2 times, but she knows I exist. She thought I was dead. Like, she did not know I was alive, right? Which lends itself to an even crazier layer, because she named me Anastasia, which means resurrection. So she finds out that I have indeed resurrected, and she's got like little pictures of me and Michael, my husband, in her cell. And she said she kisses it every morning and every night. But she was just forcibly sterilized. So she went to the infirmary for a stomach ache, and she came out with no reproductive organs.
What age was this when that
This
happened?
was recently. This was in 2021. So she was 38, 39.
Why would they do that?
So gypsies can't breed.
Wow.
Like, I mean, to put it bluntly, like that's how they would say it. Like, take away their womb so the gypsies can't breed. I mean, they're horrible over there.
And I'm jumping all over the place because I have
I
so
know,
many
me
questions.
too. Sorry.
No, this is good. This is what makes podcasts interesting. And you may have already explained it a little bit, but why do the Russians dislike the gypsies so much? Like, why? What is it about them that they would want to do this?
Okay, so about 1,500 years ago, a bunch of northern Indians got together. They were in the lowest caste system, and they didn't like it, which I can completely understand. And they dispersed. So some of them went to Asia, some of them went into Europe, and what the gypsy ethnicity is like 1,500 years of Europeans mixed with northern Indians. So it has a lot to do with color, and it has a lot to do with, people who are darker went into Europe and wanted to, have a life there. And, they were like, absolutely not. It's skin color, it's racism, but it's also culture too. Like, Romani culture is matriarchal. Like, the women are in charge of the families, the women hold the money, they buy things, they do everything. And because they are nomadic, they're never settling and assimilating either. So they're very insular. So nobody likes that about them. And then you have that compounded over 1,500 plus years, and you've got an entirely insular culture, subculture, in Europe.
So they've never really been able to settle and have their own thing. It's just that they
They
travel somewhere, don't really get accepted. They're outsiders, so they end up moving. They've never been able to really set up shop, it sounds like.
Some of them have, like, you have people like Rubina, whose parents lived in a town in Novosibirsk in Russia. And they did set up shop, and they lived there. They lived in a public housing, one of those panel buildings, Soviet era public housing. They lived there. So I think that and that was something that I had in Rubina, because I wanted to clarify that there were gypsies who were stationary as well, and they did create a life. And so the plight of like Rubina's mom in my script is that, she gave up her gypsy culture and her heritage and let it decoct to effectively nothing so that she could have a life, right? And still gets treated like trash.
Which leads to another. Well, I do have one last question about what was that moment like when you first made contact with Rubina?
Oh, it was
Both for you and for
surreal.
her. Do you know both? Do you know how she reacted?
It was surreal for both of us.
Yeah.
It was a lot of crying. It was
Was it phone call? Was it
a letter
letter?
that I had to have my friend translate for
That's
me,
right.
but I
Yeah.
sent letters to her. I mean, I looked relentlessly. I found her social media, but unfortunately, by the time I found her, she was already in prison. So I'm messaging everybody on her friends list. I'm like, do you know my mom? And nobody knew about me because they thought I was dead. So one person believed me because I sent her a picture of the adoption paperwork and she was like, that's your mom's handwriting. So yes, I do believe you, but nobody else believed me. And only out of like, I don't know, her 200 friends, only 2 of them have ever spoken to me. Her best friend, Olga, who I love, and I think it was her employer, somebody who knew Rubina. But nobody else will speak to me.
And when is she set to be released?
So she got in 2018 and she will be out in 2028. Hopefully. I'm getting her. I'm going to make it happen. I'm
Yeah.
going to go find her and get her. I have to. I have no choice.
That's incredible. And there's probably no like getting out early for good behavior type of thing over in Russia. Like once your sentence is probably your sentence over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
It's crazy. She's actually in a gulag. Like it was used as a gulag because
I'm
they're
sorry, what's a gulag?
Okay, so
I've heard the name, but I don't want to like agree with you. I'm like, yeah.
gulags are the Siberian prisons that dissidents were sent to during the Cold War and earlier, like right after. So a little bit of like Russian history. Russia was always they always had dynasties of like ruling class, the families, the czars, right? And they were tied to European like monarchies and whatnot. They're just, like a lot of inbreeding and like, oh, your cousin's gonna go be a princess here now, like whatever. So, the Tsar Nicholas and his family, which his little daughter Anastasia, right? The story of Anastasia, the princess, comes from that. But Tsar Nicholas was the last czar, and I think it was what was it? It was either 1911 or 1914. There was the Bolshevik uprising, and the Bolsheviks were the working class people, kind of like it's like any other revolution. Like if you look at the French Revolution too, it's just like the working class people are sick of the opulence. They overthrow the monarchy, and then from that came like Lenin and then Stalin, right? So um I forgot your question.
I think I forgot. No,
I'm sorry.
No. This is fascinating because I've been reading some other world history. And
Gulags.
The gulags. But this is great because I don't really know Russian history that well. So like this is
Nobody does. It's fine.
well, right, is because it just reminds you how big the world really is outside of the United States.
Yeah.
Like we all think, oh, U.S. It's like, no, go around the world. There's this, so it's fascinating to me. So yeah, the gulags.
Yeah. So during the Cold War and during Lenin and Stalin, when they would send off political dissidents. So anywhere in the USSR, which included, like, I'm pretty sure it included Armenia as well. Like I have a friend who's Armenian and her grandpa was sent to a Siberian gulag. So any political dissidents, anybody who disagreed, they were sent to gulags, which are Siberian prisons. They're prisons. And they're not even that locked down because it's like you can leave if you want but you're just going into snow, like you're going to die. So if you want to live, you have to stay here. And when I went to send something to her prison to talk to her, it translated to gulag, the name of the prison and the gulag.
You realize that this is a documentary within itself, right?
Yeah.
Like you're making the film Rubina, but then the documentary of you going to get Rubina. That'll be a total. Just throwing that out there.
We have to film that. Yeah.
Your film will be made by then, so this will be the extended.
Yeah. Director's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. So, and another topic. So the whole selling of the babies and can you break that down? Because that was something I'm like, whoa, like this actually happens. Like people are actually doing this. That was the most mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is this not being shouted about?
Uh-huh.
Like all over, and like you're like, no, this is going, not just has happened, this happens.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also not just Russia. Like, I'm pretty sure in Ireland, like when girls would be assaulted or they had, premarital whatever, that the babies would be taken from the moms and put in orphanages. So it's similar in Russia, but due to being in an economic limbo, right? So I was born in 1996, right? So newly post-Soviet. Technically, they're in a democracy. Technically, Boris Yeltsin is president. Technically, they have they're capitalistic now, but they're still like a heavy black market, right? And the mafia, the Russian mob, it's very corrupt. You have to pay people off. Like Bert Kreischer has this really funny story, the comedian, about going to Russia and how like he had to like pay people off to get on a train, and it's completely correct. And that's so my parents like knew, and other adoptive parents, they know it's shady, but they're like desperately seeking spawn. Like they just want children, right? And they're doing something good no matter what. The morality surrounding international adoption, it's changing a lot. Like China just stopped letting international adoptions happen. Russia hasn't done it since 2007. A lot of adoptees are speaking out about their international adoption and like kind of not wishing that they had been adopted by like that white savior kind of thing. I personally don't identify with that because I love my parents so much and I love being an American. But Russian orphanages were tied to the black market and often the Orthodox churches. So you would have, unwed mothers, teenagers, gypsies specifically, who would go to these hospitals that were often tied with the Russian Orthodox Church, and they would give birth. And then their babies they would be told, like, your baby died, or whatever, or they would be talked into it, completely coerced in a very vulnerable state, right? You just gave birth and you're extremely vulnerable. And they're picking vulnerable people. So, girls that don't have family with them, girls who's, don't have their partner with them, poor, young, and they convince them, or they lie and take the babies and they put them in an orphanage. My adoptive parents paid 40 grand under the table to adopt me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is like crazy. Yeah. Which then, of course, doesn't make me feel that great because I'm like 40 grand. Like, that's all I'm worth.
Didn't pay 50. No,
right? Exactly.
That's a pure joke.
I know. That's hilarious.
It's like 90 grand now, though, with inflation.
Right?
So there you go.
Right? If you count for inflation, it's like 90. That's not too bad.
So
it's like a mid-level G-Wagon, right?
So the church and the hospitals were all in on it. They were all taking cuts of this, probably.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not happening as much anymore, though. So they put a stop, or maybe happening is just not they're doing international adoptions.
They're not doing
anymore.
international adoptions anymore. I know that it still happens because my friend, Rubina's friend, Olga, who I was talking about, I speak to her all the time. I can't talk to Rubina because she's in prison, so I talk to Olga, and she's like my second, third, fourth, fifth mom. And she had a baby, and Olga's not gypsy. She's like white Russian, like ethnic Russian, and she met Rubina in prison, so she also has like a sordid past, and she had her baby taken from her too.
Wow.
And what's crazy is her baby was born May 19th, 2013, and my baby was born May 19th, 2023. Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. So.
And Olga has no idea where her baby's at or what happened.
But girls want to find their moms, I feel like. Like, I've always wanted to find Rubina. Like, I don't remember being told I was adopted, but I think they told us when we were, us being my brother and I. My brother was also adopted. We're not biologically related. We're a month apart, but they had like a 2-for-1 deal at the orphanage. So
he came from the same orphanage you did.
I think it was a different orphanage, but the agency was like, 2-for-1, you can get a gypsy if you want.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Is he gypsy too?
No.
No.
He's blonde and has green eyes. He's a good-looking kid. I love DJ. His name's DJ.
Does he live in California?
Yeah, he lives in Downey.
Okay.
He's a great uncle. But he doesn't want anything to do with his parents. But I, for some reason, always have. I've always wanted to find my birth mom. I think a lot of it had to do with seeing the movie Anastasia as a kid. It's about this like lost princess Anastasia who wants to find her family. And I was so little. I was taking form while watching that. So I thought I was like living vicariously through her. So I really thought like, I'm the lost princess Anastasia. I need to find my family.
Well, and look what that drives. Like you said, what's been created out of nothing. First it starts with this drive. Okay, I got to find my parents.
Yeah.
You find that, and then it's like, oh, I'm inspired to write. I'm going to write something. And then now you have a tangible thing that now you had people read, and now we'll get into this too, like turning this into a film.
Yeah.
And then what most importantly too is getting the message out. I think that's I've never, at least in my experience, like when I read your script, I never had read something where I'm like, oh, there's a lot of purpose behind this film.
Oh yeah.
A lot. Like, a lot of times you read something like, oh, that's a great, that was creative, that was this or that. But like, I actually felt like, oh my gosh, like, this is like a mission, this film that you're making. So where are we at? Where are you at with everything with that? What are the next steps to try to get this thing made?
So, and you know this, like we are thinking about a short film, we being me, and me and all the other versions of myself collectively as a whole. We've been thinking about, making a short film, which I want to direct. And that would be more of a proof of concept. I was talking to production companies. I made a pitch deck for the short. I wanted you to be Alexander, right? Because you did such a good job at the table read.
I'm flattered.
Yeah. But I'm not really sure right now. I still have to think about it if that is the direction that I want to go, because I did talk to arguably a big producer. I got a phone call with somebody, one of those like 1 in a million shots, got a phone call with somebody. He saw my pitch deck. He loved it. And he's got Rubina in his hands right now. He was saying, don't waste your money on this short film when your script is the proof of concept. Unless, of course, you want to direct it as your directorial debut. And that would be the main reason why I would actually want to do it. I'd pivot from more of like, this is a proof of concept, more towards, okay, this is me as a director, right? And also because, you know, I've been applying to all these fellowships and screenwriting competitions and whatnot. And I would have something to show for it. And the competition route is like, from what I've heard, like a great way to like break into the industry and get your foot in the door. So I'm hopeful about those. I'm waiting to hear back about a bunch of them, but we'll see, you know. But I am actually hopeful that we may be able to bypass the whole short route and actually get into, you know, the possibility of having Rubina optioned, possibly, you know, like best case scenario, like surreal dream come true, like we make this thing. We being people who are not me, because like if a studio picks it up, like I'm probably just getting like that written by credit, maybe a like on-set consultant, but like, you know, yeah.
I'm rooting for you. I'm happy for you, and something's happening with it. You may not know exactly what it's going to be, but that energy and momentum is in the fact that you got a call with a significant producer like that shows like it's good.
Yeah.
You know, people don't waste their time on things. Like if they saw it, like, oh no, there's something here.
Yeah. Yeah. I got really good, like, so when you write, you like you can pay for coverage and feedback. And like the Blacklist gave me 8s and 9s, which is like pretty difficult to get. So
What is it?
the Blacklist.
What is that?
Oh God, I'm so bad at explaining it.
You submit like your screenplay to
Yeah,
it?
so it's kind of like a database for writers, and you pay monthly to put your script there. And can you help me out? Do you know what Blacklist is?
It's kind of like a peer-to-peer, like, so people are getting paid though to read it, no?
Yeah.
So then, so they're getting paid to read it and they just give you feedback essentially. And then I think people also buy scripts from Blacklist and stuff like that.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Shows how much I know.
I'm so glad you were here.
Yeah, Eric's good with all the technical Hollywood stuff.
But yeah, I don't know too many people that, I don't know too many writers, and the some that I do know that they sold things, but then like they weren't even invited to the set. They actually like went out of their way to like make sure that they like weren't on set and stuff. I mean, it just depends on like who buys it and like their relationship. But sometimes that's the case too, where once you sell it, they're like, okay, thank you, but like your job's done now. But so I understand your desire to want to have a say in it, but maybe that, you know, that's not the case for everybody. So maybe whoever buys yours, you have that like, hey, I kind of want to have some input here. I'd like to be on set or be involved, or like you said, even direct it yourself.
I don't think I would ever. I would direct a short. I would not direct a feature. I just don't have enough experience for that. One day I would love to do that, but definitely. And if a studio picks it up, like they're not going to have me direct it. They're going to have a real big director do it.
Sure.
But no, Diablo Cody got to be on the set of Juno every single day, and I'm sure she had that in her as one of her like stipulations.
She's
in her
who wrote
contract.
Juno?
Yeah, Diablo Cody. I look up to Diablo Cody so much. I have like one of those little hamburger phones from Juno, and it like sits on my desk, and I have this joke that I like pray to Diablo Cody via hamburger phone every morning.
Well, it sounds like it's working.
Yeah, right?
Right?
Because by the way, writing's, I don't know, we've had this talk on here before, like to sit down and write a book or like a feature length screenplay, you got to have a lot of patience and focus for that. So
I had so much passion. Because I mean, a lot of it came from my baby, like my daughter, like having my daughter. I remember when she was born, so she was born early. It was a traumatic birth. Like I almost died. She almost died. It was very scary. And she had to be in the NICU for the first night. And I remember they wanted to take her to put her in the NICU, and they're like, you can come in an hour. And I was like, nope. I'm coming with you. And I almost got aggressive. I was like, no, if you're taking my kid somewhere, like I'm coming with you. Meanwhile, I had just given birth. I'm like like profusely bleeding. I am like not doing well. And I stood up and I walked my butt all the way over to the NICU and I stayed there and I would not like I would not have her out of my sight. Because I'm just traumatized.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like,
Especially because of,
yeah.
wow.
And I didn't want my baby to think that she didn't have a mom. Because I think about it and I was forcibly taken from my mom, right? And I spent the first 6 months of my life in an orphanage. And Romanian, Russian, Eastern European orphanages, like if you Google that, the first things that come up are like UN investigations, right? Like the babies are treated like worse than animals. I mean, it really, really is a business of selling bodies over there. And they, and I wasn't interacted with for 6 months. And I feel bad for myself in a sense, but I would look at my infant and I'd be like, oh my God, the idea of somebody leaving you to rot in a crib by yourself, like I couldn't even bear it. And it affected my postpartum depression. It did, because there's no way, it brought up everything for me, right? Having my own child brought everything up. There's no way I was going to look at her and not think, oh my God, what if you were in a orphanage right now? Like the idea of this sweet little precious helpless baby girl who came out of my body, who I grew inside of me, like being alone. So I had to write Rubina. I had to write Rubina. There was like no way around it. And I did it. I mean, I did the damn thing. Like I would be sitting there breastfeeding while typing, like I did it any chance that I got. But a newborn is a lot easier than a toddler in a lot of ways, because she would just lay there. So I actually could write. Like now it's almost impossible to get anything done.
Well, it's written. So you got
I'm good. I've done like almost 20 rewrites.
How much has it changed from like the first, like drastically from like your first draft?
Not drastically. I've moved a lot of things around. Like I took stuff at the end and put it in the beginning to increase tension. You know what I mean? Moved the inciting incident around. I had camera directions in my first draft, which I did because I'm like, I'm going to direct this, but some feedback that we got at the table read was take that out. Everybody else who I read it to said take that out. So I did. So we took that out. But it is basically the same thing. It's just we trimmed a lot. I I trimmed a lot of the fat, got rid of the camera directions, and made it much more cohesive, way easier to read, fixed. It was more technical stuff really than anything else, because the dialogue was like already pretty good in my opinion.
It's great. No, I mean, without giving away what's all in it, but I mean, people laughed, people cried,
Yeah.
It was intense.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. Like I feel the energy of what Rubina living this script in you, because it's pulling from your experiences and your knowledges and your own having a child and all that. I'm telling you, it's going to be something. So keep doing what you're doing. Like you can't stop something like that, in my opinion.
That's why I was asking. I had a feeling it didn't change much. It's not like, oh, this isn't very exciting, or like, let's spice it up by adding some shit, like more bullshit. Like it sounds like you kind of had this story already in you, or you just gathered it, but it's really already like a thing, and now you're just polishing it.
Right.
Yeah,
just polishing.
Yeah.
Exactly, the technical stuff. Yeah.
Can I say something about Alexander?
Yes, please. We haven't talked about him.
Yeah, so what I thought was interesting, and again, I don't people are going to have to just find out when the movie comes out, but his role in all of this as more of like a seducer, a manipulator, that was interesting. So
Yeah.
it's not only women that are getting sterilized or getting their babies taken from them. There's actually men, older men, who are manipulating and seducing these younger women so they get pregnant
Yeah.
and playing their, and then kind of just, oh, not my problem anymore type of situation,
Yeah.
which I thought was really messed up.
Um,
Very dark.
yeah. So Alexander in real life is not nice. I did find him. He was not very nice to me. I partially understand it because he has a family, you know, and finding out that you have a kid who's an adult is pretty jarring. Like, that's gonna really disrupt your family. So I kind of understand that. But so in the script, Alexander's 34, Rubina's 15, which is really disgusting. But in real life, Alexander was 21, 22, and Rubina was 15. Still very much illegal, still wrong, but I really wanted to make that age difference stand out much more because in the beginning, or in real life, Alexander was a trainee. He was training to be in the KGB. And that's how he met Rubina. So he was in Novosibirsk. He's from Moscow. Novosibirsk is like so Moscow is over here and Novosibirsk is like all the way over here. So Moscow is like close to Europe and Novosibirsk is over in Siberia. Novosibirsk translates to New Siberia. It's over in the Asian part. So why is he all the way over there? Well, there's a training base over there. So that's how they met each other and then he left. But I knew that it wasn't just a one night stand because she had all of this information about him. And from what I've gathered from, you know, what I've pieced together is that they did have a relationship and he effectively like walked out. So,
And you don't contact anymore.
no.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't care about him. He's just like a sperm donor. You know what I mean? So, but Rubina's the one I care about. Rubina's like my girl.
And you said in jail she kisses another photo. Who's that of? You said every night.
Oh, my husband. Yeah, me and my husband. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like she had a baby photo of you or something.
Oh, I wish.
So she doesn't even have that.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I guess, I don't even think they let her hold me after I was born. I think I was just taken away, you know?
And I'm speaking out of realms I don't really know much about, but I know there's something biological about putting the baby in the mother's arms like right away.
Yeah, it's
There's
called
truth to that.
Yeah, it's called skin to skin contact. And when I gave birth, they immediately put her on me. The first thing Sophia did when she came out was she peed. She peed everywhere. She peed all over me. And then they put her on my chest. And, you know, immediately started breastfeeding and she was on my chest. And they even had Mike do it. The skin to skin contact, not the breastfeeding.
Bring Mike back in here. We got some questions.
He like laid there like, and they put her right on his chest. What that does though is it regulates their heart rate, right? So babies, unfortunately, there's this thing called SIDS. It's called sudden infant death syndrome. And people think that it happens from them being in cribs. There's a lot of controversy around what I'm saying or whatever. Like, there's a lot of disagreement. But from my understanding, SIDS is like not suffocating in the crib on a pillow. SIDS is literally when they just pass away. And they're like the first year of their life, like they can just die for no reason. A lot of what helps with that is skin to skin contact, because my heartbeat regulates her heartbeat. My breathing regulates her breathing. So that's actually why I co-slept with her too. So there's a lot of controversy around whether or not co-sleeping is safe. Like they say, put them in a bassinet next to the bed, but I was breastfeeding and I didn't have any pillows in the bed. There were no blankets. And Sophia would just be on me all night and I did not move. I stayed like a rock, and I did not sleep for like a whole year basically. But she slept with us, and I really do believe that like hearing my heartbeat and feeling my breathing and feeling me on her um helped her thrive, cuz she was a preemie, and she's doing really well now. She's like 25th percentile when before she wasn't even on the chart. So
And what do you mean when you say 25 percentile?
that's so funny. That's
You can tell I don't have any.
no, that's so funny because that's exactly what Alexander asks in the he was
Oh my
remember?
gosh, I'm living the script.
Right, remember he's like, what
You're
is
just
that?
playing your part, Sam.
It's like, what does that mean? And Rubina's like, it means that 75% of babies are bigger than her at this age. Stupid.
I'm gonna have to go reread there.
Yeah,
I forgot
but
my line.
They have there's a curve, right? It's like the average. They go by height and weight and like what the average baby is, right? So basically, like Sophia is at the 25th percentile, so it means like 75% of babies on average are bigger than she is.
Well, and I'm just going off, what you're telling me. It just seems, I don't know, it just seems like you have such an appreciation to be a mother, especially because of your experiences.
Oh
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah.
you really take it seriously, as you should, and really are giving your daughter, both of you, her best upbringing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to know my flesh and blood, and I've been motherly my whole life. And I love kids and I love babies and animals, so I always wanted to be a mom, and I feel like I'm kind of doing it backwards. Like I'm really pursuing my career after I had a baby. But I think this also explains why I dropped out of college. I went back, like I went to college for math and I used to teach math and all that stuff, but I never had gumption to follow a career path because I wanted to just have a family. So the second that I got my family, like my husband and my baby, I'm like, okay, good. Now I can go. Now I can do this. Like now I finally have that space freed up. So now I can full force attack and get my career moving.
That's a clip right there. That's a promo clip. No, but that's very interesting. I've never heard anyone, because usually, I guess I'll throw myself on the chopping block. Usually, especially out here, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do any of that stuff until I get myself situated.
Yeah.
Whereas you were the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You're like, no, let me get my home life and family situated. All right, that's set. Now I don't have to think about that anymore. Now I can concentrate on all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And it works. And listen, it's kind of difficult. Like, I want to be doing stand up at night. I want to be like in more classes for writing, right? Like I just signed up to do classes at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, for sketch writing, because I also am very much involved in comedy stuff. And it's hard, right? Like even doing this, right? Like Michael had to race home from work so that he could just simply be in the house while she sleeps, right? And like I looked up daycare prices, average is like $1,800 a month. Like I'm not doing that. So it's a give and take. It's harder, I would think, but it's still like it's not impossible, you know? Like writing while she's home. It's harder, it's more distracting, but it's not impossible. You just get it done. Like I said, it's one day at a time. You just figure it out. You just take it as you go along.
Yeah. Is there, The other stuff you do, is there what all else do you do? You do the comedy. You're an artist as well.
Yeah. I used to have an art studio downtown. That was during COVID. Didn't we our lease ended in Michael and I had it together, my husband and I had it together. Um, the lease ended in 2020, or no, sorry, 2023 in January. We were having the baby in May, so we were like, we're not renewing this. But so how I got my internet presence is from TikTok. It's from TikTok is a cesspool. Like, I just want to preface by saying that. I hate that place. But they've paid my rent a few times. A little, like
You got a pretty big following on there, don't you?
yeah. All accidental, but it's a lot of comedy videos. It's a lot of like ranting about, things that bother me. But yeah, I have like a stand-up routine down. I'm like trying to get into that. Mike did stand up for a while, so he is kind of like my stand-up coach, which is nice. He's and you know what? I should probably take a few seconds to just explain how grateful I am for my husband, because he, did stand up. All of the writing classes that I've taken, like I went to UCLA for writing, and going to UCB, uh, going to UCB. He did all of that. So Michael's also a writer. Michael's an actor. Michael's a comedian, and he has coached me and helped me along through this whole. I could not have gotten Rubina done if I did not have his support and his help. Not really with writing. He didn't help me write it, but he helped me with like developing ideas, and he helped me with most importantly just reassuring me and like, okay, like I'm gonna take the baby for 2 hours so you can write. Like, that's so helpful. And he's just been like the best human being ever.
I love it. You guys
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. No, you guys are awesome, man. Your energy is always great. I know we always catch each other at random times. Like even like, oh, you do a podcast? Yeah, I know. I thought you knew. Like, oh, you write scripts? Oh, okay. Yeah. That's the beauty of LA, right? Like your literal neighbors are all working on stuff and you never even knew it.
I love LA. Don't you love LA?
I love LA.
You're from Illinois, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been out here?
7 years February.
Nice.
I think he's hitting the 7 year. Eric, you're hitting the 7 year mark too, right?
I'm over as of November 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
I've had those periods where, oh, well, we were going to move here. It's cheaper or that, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the sunshine, the energy, the art. I love LA. I love LA. I'm here. Like, I'm here.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I was with a friend in Culver City the other
City's
day.
Nice.
Picked them up from the airport, and I hadn't been in Culver City in years. We go down, park, went to the Irwan.
Of course you did.
It was such an LA.
Right?
It was such an LA thing. We parked, we go to Irwan. It was a great Irwan. And it was just so nice. It was you got the Sony studios, you got I think the Amazon was down there too, studios. They might be down there, but it's like going to a different world. And that's what I love about LA is there's so, like where we're at in North Hollywood area. It's like there's these little pockets in cities.
Yeah.
And there may be a lot of times you never go on a quote unquote vacation, but like we live near everything. You can go to Santa Barbara and be back.
I know. We always go to Big Sur. I love
Big
it.
Sur.
Oh God, that's where we got married. I love it up there.
Oh, you guys got married at Big Sur?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds epic.
Yeah. We eloped. And then we had a wedding in Chicago where Mike's from. But the elopement was the best day. Yeah.
So elopement means like, hey, we're just going to go do this without anybody.
Yeah, my mom took us, and my parents are divorced. Mom and dad are divorced, so they wouldn't be in the same room as each other. So one did one wedding, the other one did the other. So my mom took Michael and I up to Big Sur with her cousin, who's a pastor, and she married us.
And I assume it was like on the ocean, type of thing.
No, it was in the redwoods.
Whoa, that's even
Yeah,
more
we were
epic.
surrounded by the redwoods next to a creek. We just pulled over in a park, in a national park in Pfeiffer State Park. It was gorgeous.
That's badass.
It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. We said our vows and yeah, yeah. Sophia. We made Sophia that night.
So now you're gonna have to take her to that location
and
one day.
never tell her that because she'll be like, "Ew, mom, that's so gross." Be like,
Now,
yeah,
Big Sur, that's above or below San Francisco?
below. Yeah, it's like what, like 2 hours from it, an hour and a half.
South of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you take that really pretty drive, you'll go through it.
Yeah,
At least
up
part
to
of it.
PCH.
You
Yeah.
been to Big Sur?
Just the drive through, yeah. So I didn't like stop off at any of the national parks, but yeah, it's really pretty. You haven't done that?
No, I know. About Central Coast is as far as I've been. Like, I've been to San Francisco before, but never like the full drive.
Yeah.
But California, I love California. Like, it's
It's so beautiful.
yeah, it's so beautiful. Is it perfect? No, but at the end of the day, and someone made this point on TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok, by the way, is love and hate for me. I said
Yeah.
I'd never get a TikTok account. I go, TikTok's stupid. It's
Yeah.
nothing but dances.
Right.
But then I started, then we had a couple clips, maybe not blowing up as big as what yours did, but we definitely had some that now it's like one of our leading social media. I love about TikTok, it's just Wild West.
Yeah.
Open range.
Yeah.
Random people can go viral and blow up overnight.
Yeah.
Not as many, I feel, constrictions with Instagram, and
Yeah.
my opinion.
No, it's a little bit better over there, and you can make a lot of money.
Yeah. If you don't mind me, what's your follower count on there, TikTok?
I have almost 62,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really big because TikTok, it's harder to get followers too on there. I have found, like, where Instagram people, I think more like TikTok, they really make you earn
Yeah.
your follow.
I know. It's weird though, because when I remember it all happened very accidentally just from a few videos. And then I kept it going, right? Because I had like a fan base.
We still do.
But God, I hate saying that. And I hate talking about followers because like it didn't like affect my value of myself. But I know that having followers is like is so high stakes for some people. Like there are people, and not judging, just reporting, who really do like base their entire self-worth around followers. And I don't think it's sad more than it is just a result of what our society is like and what life is like, right? Like there's so many mom accounts that I follow, and it is so fake. And it's like all just designed to make you feel bad about yourself. Like, oh, your house isn't clean. You didn't lose all the weight from your baby. You're not you don't have abs yet. Like your house, like your husband like doesn't make enough money for you to, stay at home. Like you're not making Cheez-Its from scratch. It's like there's this hierarchy of moms on like mom talk, like mom Instagram, and it is so cringe.
I had no idea about that.
I didn't know about that until I became a mom. Yeah.
It's amazing what the algorithm will pull you into. Mine's like a lot of dogs and cats, some NBA highlights. But that's what's funny about Instagram is once you watch a couple things, like, all right, we'll give you more of this, and then it will just stop and then just give you something just random again. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of into this now. But no, that's the thing with social media. And I talk about it all the time on here. Sometimes I do really good about it. Sometimes I don't. It's not healthy to constantly ingest that stuff. Even when you're even looking at positive things, I think sometimes it's just you're looking at screens, you're filling your head with other people. I don't know. It gets exhausting.
Yeah. That's why you go on those walks and those runs. And that's why I go out with the baby and go on those walks. We got to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like home all day, just, watching my kid like throw herself onto stuff and then looking at my phone while she does it. I
Yeah.
feel bad about how much I'm on my phone, to be honest, but
We're all doing it.
it's sometimes it's boring. Like the day can be boring when I'm like just hanging out with Sophia. Like I love her, she's great, but there's only so many times I want to watch her throw herself off the couch. She's fine, she doesn't hurt herself. She's good. No babies were harmed, but yeah, it can get a little bit boring. I think that's where the whole like stay-at-home mom, like the feminist mystique, I think that's what that book is called. Like I think that's where that all comes from. Just being home all day and not really having a purpose outside of your kids. Like that's
The book was against stay-at-home moms, or it
no,
was
I
saying
think I'm pretty sure it was called The Feminist Mystique. If it's not, then I probably sound really dumb right now. But The Feminist Mystique was a book that came out, I believe, in the 60s or 70s, and it was about um how women who stay at home need more stimulation than just being at home. Like how working is actually like very helpful and why just being a stay-at-home mom isn't the best for everybody.
well, and I would say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'd say you have the best of both worlds
Yeah.
in that sense. Because yes, I think that's a gift you've been able to stay at home, because that's becoming way more
Yeah.
rare of a thing nowadays.
Well, because it's
I-
so expensive
It's
to
so
live.
everything's so
Yeah.
expensive. But like you said, daycare's super. You're basically paying another rent
No,
somewhere.
I
and-
would be working just to pay for daycare, which makes no sense.
But the fact that you're able to be there for those critical years of your daughter's upbringing,
Oh yeah.
and you're working because you just came up with the awesome script. So
Yeah.
you are working. Like you're doing
Yeah.
both.
I consider myself a stay-at-home work from home, stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I'm always home. I'm always home. Yeah. I wanted to talk about my writing process, kind of.
Okay, let's dive in.
Okay. So, my writing process, um, I read a few books about writing, right? When I first got the idea to write Rubina, and I was like, I'm gonna write a screenplay. So there was a lot of like learning the technical aspects, right? How to use Final Draft, how to write, what the structure is, what it looks like, all that stuff, right? And then I was just immersing myself in story, right? Like how to tell a story correctly. And then I felt like once I had gotten the technical stuff down, I started to beat out Rubina, right? So I had a beat board, which was my fireplace, and a bunch of like index cards. And I got this scene. This is what happens in this scene. This is the point of the scene. I can take it and I can move it around. But really, what I did was I would write letters to Rubina and Alexander, and I would ask them questions. And I would sleep on it, and then I would respond to the letter. Because I'd be stuck on a scene, you know? Like, I'd be like, how do I end this scene? What's the point of this scene? Why am I writing this scene? What would Rubina actually say? This sounds contrived. It looks stupid. So I would sit down and I would write her a letter. I'd be like, Rubina, come on, help me out here, girlfriend. Like, what would you do here? And I would sleep on it. And then I would get the answer, and it was crazy. It was really cool. I suggest that to everybody. Like, write letters to your characters. I felt like such a G for thinking of that. I'm sure it's been done before, but like I thought it was really smart.
It's almost like you're turning over to your creative subconscious.
Yeah. 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 And a lot of like praying to my higher power too, you know? Because when I say like, I pulled this out of thin air, I mean I pulled it out of thin air, right? But I feel like a lot of my subconscious comes from my higher power, right? So I was talking about this with Michael the other day. I don't know why I'm a good writer. I don't. I think it has somebody told me that it has to do with aptitude, which is just something you're born with. It's not necessarily something that you can learn or get better at. It just is. So I think there's parts of writing that just are, and you're either good at it or you're, I don't want to say you're not, but some people are just good at it. Like how Jimi Hendrix picked up a guitar and he was just good, right? You can learn stuff, you can get better, you can learn technical stuff, but sometimes you're just born really talented, right? And I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm the best writer in the entire world, or that I'm like obscenely talented. Like, that's between me and God. But when I type, it just comes out. I don't think about it. So my writing process is almost kind of hard to describe because I don't really think about it. It just flows out of me and it's fast. I don't even think about it. It's like it all comes from my subconscious. And all my dialogue, like if you sat there and watched me write, like I just rip through dialogue and monologues so quickly. I don't even know I'm doing it. And I don't know where that comes from. So I attribute that to God, like my higher power. Like that's not me. I am not that talented. Like that cannot just be me. Like that has to be something bigger than me, because I don't even feel myself doing it. It just comes out.
No, I'm a big believer in we're just these vessels that are channeling this energy and these downloads. Some people
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
We're just the mechanism to deliver the message from whatever God, higher power.
Yeah.
Some may argue simulation.
Right. Right. Right.
It's like, where do these ideas come from? And it's a dance though, too, because sometimes they come and if you don't act upon it, you lose it.
Right.
Have you ever been in those moments where like, oh, you had an idea for something, or how does that work with you? Do you have to act on it right away? Like right when you get it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's which can be kind of like annoying for people around me. Like it was Thanksgiving and I got an idea for how to revise Rubina and I had to add in a scene. And Michael was like, "Are you kidding me?" My mom and Michael were like, "It's Thanksgiving. Like, what are you doing?" I was like, "I have to do this right now." So they're socializing, watching TV, and I'm like in the corner of the kitchen, like typing furiously. I probably looked like such a jerk.
You're not alone because yeah, trust me, you're again, LA people who come on this podcast, we're all have our laptops with us in corners uploading. We had won't go into full details, but we had a technical thing that it was we cranked it out though.
Yeah, like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Hours before a launch of an episode, basically had to like re-export it like 6 times in a row. Yeah.
Don't you love that?
Yeah, so he's doing his step, going to bed. I was waking up at a certain time. We got it done. But it's just like this life, though. It's you don't think about it. Like you just do what you do to get it done.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
if you don't do it, no one's going to do it until you get to a level high, where you got a bunch of people working for you, and even then, you still need to lead.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
If you don't do it.
Right. Yeah. And if you want something done, you got to do it yourself or get somebody that you clearly trust to do it with you.
Yeah. No, so I totally, you're not alone when it comes to that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's 2 sides to it. Like one side, it's like it's really fun to even do that. You're like, we don't mind doing it. Like it's kind of exciting, but then you have to almost check yourself. Like, am I becoming compulsive here? Like, is this like I feel like am I losing some control and like feeling like I have to do it? So you have this constant battle because that ultimately can be a deterrent. Like where it's like, hey, maybe I do need to step away and have even a better idea. Maybe some ideas are just meant to pass through your antenna and not come in. So it's like having that self-regulation, like that's such a dance of itself right there. Like that's an art of just being human.
That's so important. I'm so glad you said that. That's so true. It's so important. Yeah. 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 Sometimes like Michael told me the other day, like, I want you to, or I think you should maybe, put Rubina down for a week. I was like, a week? But I mean, every time I've done that, it's been beautiful. Great things have happened. So that's why scripts take forever. I mean, it took me I've been working on Rubina for 14 months, and I'm still working on it currently. So it takes forever, but I'm also working on other stuff too. Like I'm writing a pilot right now. And that's based off of a few sketches that I wrote, some comedy sketches, and the pilot is about like a labor and delivery floor. I've got a theme going on if you can't tell. But I wrote this sketch.
Comedy?
Yeah, I wrote a few sketches about, like, the main one was it's called like Birth is Not a Spectator Sport, and it's about this crazy like egomaniacal doctor who keeps allowing people to come into the labor and delivery room while while this woman gives birth. And so it just gets more chaotic and crazier and crazier. And then I decided to like write a pilot around that. And Michael, as a writer, is co-writing it with me. So that's cool. And it's also a little bit weird as well because our writing processes are so different. Um I'm like a workaholic, right? And I'm so like, we have to do this at this certain time, and I want this done by this day. And I'm going to sit here for 2 hours and I'm not going to stop. Whereas Michael's very much like, we're going to go with the flow. We don't have to do the series Bible first. We can just do we can write like a pitch deck first, or we can do this. And I'm like, no, this, and this. So we have been clashing a little bit with our styles, but ultimately Michael is really, really funny in like a totally different way that I am. So I think that that will make this pilot work really well. And the reasoning for the pilot is like, A, I would just like some more stuff in my repertoire of like things I've written in my portfolio, but also I'm looking for representation, like a literary agent, right? Because that's always like, that's super important. That producer I spoke to, he was like, get a literary agent now. So it's kind of crazy. I'm talking to a producer about a feature and I'm not even repped, but I would like to be. I want to be writing on TV, right? Like that's why I did all these classes. That's why I'm continuing to write. That's why I want to do UCB. That's why I want to do stand up. I want to be writing TV.
So that's your main thing you want to do. You want to be a TV writer. That's okay.
Yeah, I want to be staffed on a show. Yeah, that's the goal. That's one of the goals, right? Get Rubina made and then also be working, because I want to be working,
Yeah.
or get hired by a studio. Like that's the goal, right? But I need representation. So if anybody knows anybody, let me know. I'm always looking for a referral.
Have you been submitting to anyone? Or
Uh,
is it more of a referral type thing?
It's referrals.
Yeah.
That's how you do that, especially with the SAG and the WGA strikes. Like a lot, my professor at UCLA was telling me like a lot of agencies are not looking. They're just kind of looking out for their own right now, who they already have signed to them. So it's kind of difficult right now, but hopefully it'll get better.
Just random thought idea. Have you ever thought of making Rubina a book as well?
Yes, but I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bad idea, Sam. Just kidding. Terrible idea.
I'm sorry.
No. It's just that was part of the download. I'm like, ooh, I better say something or I might forget about it.
No,
Some things are better served as no. This is a movie. This isn't going to be a book.
I feel like film is the highest level of art because you're taking all facets of it. Like you are basically making something tangible out of nothing. Like it's so close you can almost touch it. And film is so visceral that that's the highest form of art in my opinion. So I would want Rubina to be a film.
That's a great answer.
I like that too.
Yeah. No, I like how you said like it's the highest art form and it's so close you can almost touch it type of thing. That was dope. Is there anything else you wanted to share, whether it's Rubina, anything else you have going on? And again, I really appreciate you sharing and being so open and authentic with your story.
Thanks so much for having me. I think I I'm talked about everything I wanted to talk about for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely. Well, if you ever need to come back and say something,
Okay.
not too far away. Eric, did you have any
No, thanks for
questions?
sharing. It was really awesome to hear about, and yeah, good luck with it. It
Thank you.
sounds like it, whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. It sounds like you got momentum though, and that's
Yeah.
that's important.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll give you the final word here in a sec. But like I said earlier, just the passion and the energy. And I had seen it and felt it talking to you, getting the mail or
Yeah, right.
going to the table read. But even just now, like even some moments here, just like you can't put a price on that. Like it's just authentic. It's real. It's unique.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's deep.
Yeah.
It's so many things. It's not just this great creative idea. It's like, no, there's a complete mission behind this. And when there's a mission to something, whether it's art, a company, whatever, get out of the way because it's happening. So continue to drive. My whole thing, I have a thing called produce your passion.
Yeah.
Instead of pursuing, where pursuing is like, oh, maybe we do it, maybe producing your passion goes, no, we're going to make this thing happen one way or another.
Yeah.
So you're doing it. You are
Yeah.
producing your passion right now with this. And what the end goal is or what the end product's going to be, you don't know yet, but it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah.
So keep
Thanks for
following
having
that.
so much faith in me. I appreciate that. That makes me
Yeah.
feel really good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I'm being serious. Yeah,
I
no,
know.
I really meant it when I read that script and I'm like, wow, like that. And then especially after the table read, seeing it come to life with everybody, I'm like, man, it's really good, obviously, but no, just the story, like the authenticity of it too, just takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the last word here in a sec, but before I do, where can the people find you online? How can they get a hold of you if they want to reach out? How can they find out about the Rubina film? I know there's a website.
Yeah.
Where are all the places people can go
So,
check it out?
I am highly active on my Instagram. That's actually the best place to reach me. And then on my Instagram bio is where you can like really reach me if you want to reach me. But my Instagram is Stasia Gambino, STASIAGAMBINO, just at Stasia Gambino. And then on my bio, there's like the Instagram page for Rubina, which then has the website and all that. Yeah.
Okay. TikTok, did you want to shout that out at all?
Oh, good. Yeah. My TikTok is not Stasia Gambino. My Instagram is Stasia Gambino. And that's where you can find me.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Stasia, thank you so much for coming on. This was a treat. I really enjoyed this conversation and I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. And it's inspiring. It's inspiring to see this happening for you because again, like going out to get the mail or wherever we run into each
Right.
other, we park next to each other.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm working on this or there. And then like I'd get little pieces, like you'd give me little breadcrumbs, or you'd tell me some of your backstory. And all right, but then like when I read the script and then came to that table read, it like all came together. And now here we are with this. I'm like, wow, like this is a thing.
This is so cool. And it was so cool to be here. I was
Yeah.
so excited.
Yeah. Thank you for your support of this podcast too, by the way. You've been
Of
very supportive
course.
online. So I appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
love your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. And you've been a fantastic guest. And I always give the guests the last word. It can be as short or as long, as deep or as shallow as you want. How would you like to end this podcast?
Like a quote?
It can be a quote. It can be a joke. It can be something serious. It can be like something funny. It can be, yeah.
You know what they say, right?
What?
It's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings. Kurt Cobain said that.
I'm going to have to let that sink in. Stasia Gambino, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sam Dever, the Sam Dever Podcast here, and I just want to thank you for checking out this episode. To watch and listen to future episodes, be sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. Thank you so much. See you soon.